John Robertson Forrest, preferred name Jack, was born in the village of Forrest, Banffshire, Scotland on the 13th of October 1890. He was the eldest of 12 children born to James Allen Forrest and Isabella Essen, and attended Grange School in Banffshire, Scotland. Jack's father was a crofter, farming on a small area of land belonging to a laird, which did not bring in much money. Therefore, when Jack and his brothers were old enough, they worked on farms too. Many family members decided to leave Scotland with the hope of finding better work, enabling them to buy their own land. James Mowat Forrest, Jack's brother, summed up the situation well in this quote.
He could never make enough money working on a farm in Scotland to buy a piece of land big enough to bury himself in, let alone with living.
It was with a hope for more opportunities that compelled Jack to immigrate to Australia. Jack lived in North Ryde, New South Wales, was a grocer's carter for a Scottish couple named Mr. and Mrs. George Pyrie, and frequented the North Ryde Rifle Club. Jack was doing quite well in Australia, and after a few years he was able to send money back home to his remaining family in Scotland. His brother Frank and sister Eliza were planning to visit Sydney. However, when war broke out in Europe, Frank enlisted with the 6th Battalion Gordon Highlanders and died of wounds on the 29th of March 1917. John also served with the Gordon Highlanders before embarking for Sydney. 16-year-old Eliza eventually did arrive in Sydney on the SS Benalla, however, much later than expected, and by that time Jack would embark for Egypt after just 2 weeks. At 24 years and 4 months, Jack enlisted on the 5th of July 1915 and became a private in the 2nd Infantry Battalion with the regimental number 3046. On the 8th of October of that same year, he embarked from Sydney to Egypt on board the HMAT A60 Warilda. On the 16th of February 1916, Jack was transferred to the 54th Infantry Battalion, embarking for Marseille on the 19th of June 1916. Unfortunately, Jack Robertson Forrest was killed in action on the 19th of July 1916 in the Battle of Fromelles at only 25 years old. Jack never saw his sister again, but left her money, allowing her to stay in Sydney to build her life. Eliza's daughter was actually the person whose DNA was matched with Jack's, which family members believe that she would have been pleased with. By 1920, only 2 of the 12 Forrest children remained in Scotland, as 3 had tragically died and 7 had moved to Australia, New Zealand, or Canada, therefore meaning that Jack has hundreds of possible descendants living in Australia today. While he was never married and bore no children, he is remembered fondly by family members, and his loved ones still tell stories about Uncle Jack. John Forrest's name is written on VC Corner in Fromelles, and on panel 159 in the commemorative area at the Australian War Memorial. Jack now lays in the Pheasant Wood Cemetery in Fromelles, along with his beloved comrades after the successful DNA matching with Eliza's daughter in 2012. Jack is also commemorated in the Eastwood Park Memorial in North Ryde, Sydney, and in the Keith War Memorial in North East Scotland. John Forrest was presented with 3 medals for his service: the 1914-15 Star, British War Medal, and the Victory Medal. He was also awarded a gold fob after his death from the Eastwood community in North Ryde. Jack's mother, Isa, was known as a local poetess in her town. She wrote many poems that provided emotional insight into how families grieved death during the war. She wrote many poems, and along with others, she wrote a letter of inquiry to the AIF asking whether or not her son was alive. Lines from Isa's poem, Silent Warrior, are engraved on Jack's headstone in the Pheasant Wood Cemetery.
Silent warrior, vigil keeping over our dead. Beloved dead, sadly do we bow before thee, reverently unbare the head. At thy feet we lay our tributes, that do bloom but for a day. In our hearts bright visions linger, that can never fade away. Mute these messages. Mute they messages, yet appealing to the hearts of young and old. Down through all the coming ages, glorious deeds wilt thou unfold, showing forth to generations noble deeds so bravely done on the fields of France and Flanders, that the victory might be won. Cherished names in golden letters tell how heavy was the cost on the long and bitter conflict, that the cause might not be lost. At thy shrine in sad remembrance, every heart will hope and pray that the peace so dearly purchased prove a peace to last for aye.
John Jack Robertson Forrest arrived in Australia hoping for a new life. He was only given 5 years of this new life until he faced the fate that so many before and after him have suffered from.
However, his short life does not mean that he was forgotten, because even when he was lost and had no grave to visit, his family never forgot him. Now that he lies among his comrades, he will rest in peace and his memory will stay alive forever.